One thing I know is if I didn't do art, something in me would die. That's all I know that keeps driving me forward is that it is a passion.
Well, hey there, my friend. This is Miriam Schulman, your curator of inspiration. I am so thrilled that you're here today. Today, we have an artist incubator client, and this one actually won my list building contest in February. But you're going to be so inspired by everything that he has to share. He's a visual artist based in New York City, specializing in figurative oil paintings and sculpture. Please welcome to the Inspiration Place, Tyran Schouten. So I just want to let you know that I've been mispronouncing poor Tyron's name this entire time, and he's never corrected me. I've been saying Schouten. So, okay, Schouten, who mispronounces your name, I'll name wrong.
Oh, I get that all the time. Schouten, Scooten, all of those. My first name's random too, so Tyrion, but you just gotta go with it.
I get the first name wrong as well. Marianne, Marion,
Yeah.
Maria. I don't know, like Mary.
I mean, sometimes the advantage of having a random name though is it's easier to find when people are searching for you. So
True. Okay, so we have so much to talk about that I actually made a list so I won't forget. Okay, let's talk about Trader Joe's. Tell us more. Trader Joe's is all over the
yeah,
country, right? Not just New York area.
it is. I love Trader Joe's, but I actually didn't know what Trader Joe's was before moving to New York. I moved from Utah and we have regular grocery stores. They do have Trader Joe's in Utah, but it was, I guess, out there back in the day, it was like this bougie niche thing that people would go to get these products. So I was introduced to the amazing world of Trader Joe's here in New York by looking for my first job. So I moved to New York right after graduating and I was doing an internship, which was nice because they like funded me to fly out to New York. And so that was my game plan. It was like, I'm going to end this internship. And in the meantime, I'm going to be trying to find a job because my goal is I wanted to stay in New York City. And I have like no connections out here as far as family. All of my family's in Utah. But I did through a friend at church. I just mentioned that I'm an artist and she knew a connection. She's like, oh, there's another girl that does some of the artwork for Trader Joe's. You should talk with her. And so I did. I reached out to her, just asked what that's like. And she mentioned, she's like, oh, I think they're actually opening a new store down in Murray Hill. She's like, I know the captain. His name's John. Go, you can, use my name as a reference. Go talk to him. And I did. And it was literally while they were like still putting the store together, scrambling, and I showed him like my portfolio and explained that I'm comfortable doing large scale stuff. And he just pointed at a couple examples of like their sign work, their typography kind of stuff. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh, how long would it take you to do that? I was like, oh, couple hours. I had no idea. and
Yeah.
and he's like, okay, can you start on Thursday? And
Yeah. And was this doing chalk art for them?
they
Like
use
the
these
signs?
markers, these acrylic markers
Okay.
mostly. Basically, we're doing the big displays on the end of the aisles. And so they have to be like sprayed with alcohol, cleared off every, couple weeks and do a new display. So
You're basically peeling the acrylic off.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's super fun. There's this artist who was in the Whitney Biennale who did like painted acrylic on plastic and then peeled it off and
Wow.
then would hang it. I showed my daughter who's not really an artist. I was like, that looks like so much fun because she loves peeling the paint off of my palettes.
Yeah.
Like,
Would it, would he put like light behind it? Because that would almost,
yeah, this is a woman and she's an
oh,
artist in her 80s. And well, the way they would display it is almost like hides. So sometimes it was on the wall, but sometimes it was displayed like in the middle of the gallery so you can see through it. Yeah. Yeah, it
crazy.
was very cool. Like, ooh, that is really cool. Like
Yeah.
something I'd want to
And see
try.
the behind the layers, like that would
Yes.
crazy to see it from behind what, you know, you build up layers.
Yeah. And yeah, but we're here to talk about your art. So I don't want to like, I love talking about all art though.
For sure.
For
Yeah.
sure. Okay. So I love Van Cortlandt Park. Fun fact, when I was a senior in high school, my best friend was the captain of the cross country team. So she asked me to join in. I was terrible. I did not make it even to the meet. But like for
I
a
did.
while, I did some running in Van Cortlandt Park as part of that stint, kind of on the team. So I love Van Cortlandt Park. So tell us about the mural. What is it? Where is it? Tell us everything.
I always tell people if they want to go see it, you literally just hop on the one train, take it all the way to the top. They'll kick you out of the subway so you can't miss it. And it's on that street. That's the corner of Broadway and Van Cortlandt Park. And you literally just walk up that street and you'll see it on your left. It's literally on like a residential building. So the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I'm a member of the church, but they were looking for members to do this campaign that they were doing. It's called Tag the Talk. Basically, they wanted members to take something that they were inspired by in a message from one of the church leaders and create a piece of art based on what was inspiring to them. So they really gave free range and they just wanted to have some type of public art. And so that's how they had found me, was through my social media and connections who have told, who made it clear that I'm comfortable doing large scale stuff.
Now, the next question I had for you is what did you paint?
So I painted a woman who has a house on fire, like inside her chest.
Ooh,
Yeah.
is this
I
inspired by a scripture or by somebody's?
So the talk was called One in Christ. I titled my mural One Within, and I love visual metaphors. So I wanted to depict this inner turmoil. At first, I was like, oh, like a city that's burning. But I was like, what's more intimate than a city and a house, home? And so a home on fire in her chest. And actually, there's smoke coming up from the fire. And she's like turned and blowing it away, kind of just showing like she's like made peace. And actually, in her hand, she's holding these flowers. So, like the crumbling of the house, the dirt, from that comes new growth, is the kind of metaphor I was going for.
I love that. Like forest fires, there's always something grows out.
Rose
That's what
gold.
I tell people about New York City after the pandemic. I was like, don't worry, it's like the forest fire came through and there'll always be new businesses in New York City. It's coming back. All right.
What's crazy is like now we have way more street restaurants, right?
Right.
Like that was the thing post pandemic where now we permanently have these installations for outdoor seating.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so that is your mural. I can't wait to check it out. Now we're going to talk about Tyran's email list building because holy cow, I'm always getting asked, Tyran, what if I'm starting from scratch? So you joined the incubator. We're recording this in May, and Tyran joined February, end of January or like Feb 1, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. And then month of February, you decide to build an email list. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so actually, you mentioning this idea that email is king as far as reaching out to people I didn't believe it. I legit was like, that's no way that's possible. But continuing to hear your like sharing the data, I was blown away. I had never heard that before. And I got a bachelor's degree in art and no one was talking about this. So yeah, I was convinced. And so the next step was, start collecting emails. And I really liked how you suggested start with your universe. And so, I mean, I'm one of seven kids. So I started with my siblings and their spouses and my mom and dad, right? And then like extended that to my aunts and uncles, cousins, and then
Okay, so record scratch for just a minute because, like I'm imagining pulling pulling the needle off of a record. Okay. So I know a lot of artists who are listening are thinking that they don't want to push their friends and family to join their email list. We heard that last week during the artist panel that we did for my boot camp. And I know that is what I hear the most resistance from a lot of my clients. I can't ask my friends. Talk to us about that.
I basically told them that I'm starting this email list to share upcoming projects and any shows. And I would love to add you to the list. That's all I'm telling them. And I said, may I add you to that? And no one told me no. In fact, yeah, one of my friends actually mentioned I would be offended if you don't add me to the list. I mean, they're your friends, they're your family. They want to know what projects are going on. I mean, when I'm talking to people, they're asking me anyways, like currently working on. So having that given to them through an email is just a more efficient way of doing it. And then obviously that's going to lead to conversations, talking with them one-on-one, or if they do respond to your email or whatnot. So it really is just one more way to share what you love. So
Yeah.
I think that's the mindset you have to change. If you're not bothering people, you're sharing something you're passionate about. And when you're passionate about it, other people are passionate about it.
Another thing, Tyran, that I hear is, oh, I think I'm too shy or I'm too introverted to ask people. You're not an introvert, are you?
I'm not an introvert. Well, I mean,
Did you have any fear at the first time you asked?
no, well, I'm not asking strangers.
Yeah.
I'm asking people who know me, who are like literally I have their phone, so I'm shooting them a text. I think it'd be harder if I were asking someone who I didn't know at all. And I actually attempted that in Central Park and it was awkward. So start with people who know you and you know them.
I think it's also a great way to practice asking. It's easier to ask as long as you don't feel you're bothering people, that is. If you feel more comfortable starting with your friends and family and just get in the practice and in the habit of always asking, then once you're in a situation where perhaps you're in an art fair, where you're in a situation where you're selling to people you don't know, it should become like just an automated response for you that when people like say to you, oh, do you have a card? You're like, oh, would you like me to invite you to my next show? What's your email? So that should just become like a habit.
Yeah, when I heard you mention that too, like business cards, like get away from handing out business cards, I 100% agreed. I was like, I need to change that for sure because I grab people's cards, different artists, and not a single one have I ever taken that card, kept it with me, and like gone to look up their website.
Never, never. Not
Or
only that,
not
but like,
once.
and not even artists. Like, so if you're thinking, oh, that's because we are artists, but think about every other business card that I've ever grabbed in my entire life. I've never gone to the website. Like, and I was in Bergdorf Goodman with my mom because my mom likes to pretend she's bougie and like we go to the purse section and we don't buy anything. And so everyone's like giving us their card, like I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do anything with this. Like, I'm just taking this card now to be polite.
Yeah, I will say that's now what I do is if they're artists, I'm like, what's your Instagram? Because then I can at least like I'll have it if I'm following them, I can always like search for them and it'll come up. But cards, physical things, they're just gonna
Yeah.
they're
And almost as bad is saying, oh, you can follow me on Instagram, because I'm going to say this, even though Tyron, you've heard me say it already a million times, but sometimes people are listening for the first time. Less than 1%, and it's actually 0.6% of people on Instagram will ever see what you post, which is horrible odds. Horrible. So like asking them to follow you on Instagram is like saying try to drive to my house. It's meaningless at this point. And if you get their email address, now suddenly you're taking back control. So tell us about some results you've had. And I know it's only been a short time, but I also know you've had some results.
Yes, at least one of the things that I was holding me back is I was like, well, I don't know what to start sending to people. Like once I get the email list, they're going to be waiting for an email, which no, that's not true. Like it'll come when it comes. And so I've only sent out one email blast, but it was already a huge success, and I look forward to making that more regular. But so actually, the mural that I painted, so a friend of mine was like, I have some visitors coming to the city. They've already done all of the generic touristy stuff and they want to see some unusual stuff. And I mentioned this mural. They would love to go see it. Would you be willing to join us and come like share a little bit of information about it? And so at first I was like, that's like out of the way. That's a tedious thing. But then I had the idea, oh, this is an opportunity to share with others and make it an open invite. So that's what I did. Even though a bunch of people are not in New York,
Mm.
basically said, I painted this mural. We're going on a field trip on Saturday and set the date and time. If you want to join, would love to have you there. I'm going to give some behind the scenes details of the painting. And because it was part of this campaign, I said, if you can't make it, at least check out the YouTube video, sent a link to that that's linked on my website. So, little blurb, that was my first email. And it was so fun to hear from people who are not in New York, but they are my friends that I'm not calling on, a regular basis. Some of them I haven't heard from in years, but they reached out and just expressed how excited it was to see this latest project and all the things I'm doing in New York. And they're like, I went to your website and saw some of your other art. I want to buy a couple prints. So like business already came out of it.
I seem to remember that you made $1,000.
You you got it. Yeah, so it was some prints and yeah, $1,000 worth. So
That's amazing. And I thought was very smart of you to email your entire list, even though that you knew they couldn't attend it. And that is what you should be doing whenever you have something. It's because it's a way to let collectors and people who care about your art know about your accomplishments in a way that is not braggy, because you're basically just inviting them.
yeah.
And you never know who's going to be, there's no one wrote you back and said, how dare you invite me to New York? You know, I'm in Utah,
Exactly.
correct?
No,
Right.
not at all.
Yeah. Okay. Because that's what I think artists worry about. Like, but I'm bothering people and they can't come. It's like, no, they're
No.
happy for
Obviously,
you.
some were like, "Oh, I wish I could hop on a
Exactly. And there's nothing better than for making sales than FOMO.
There you go.
Like the person who bought the prints, do they live in New York?
No, they live in Washington State.
There we go. Proof that, like I asked that question without knowing the answer. Okay. So you added so many email addresses to your list at one time that you told me ConvertKit came a knocking. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I'm brand new to email marketing. You had mentioned they're really cracking down on you can't just use a Gmail, right? So like you
Yeah.
have your artist email. They basically were like, we need proof that you're a human and that all of these people have opted into your email list. It was quite a stressful procedure of trying to prove that like my friends and family want, verbally, either through text or whatnot, said emphatically, we would love to join your email list. And so I was like, I don't know how to go about proving that, but I did end up sending a screenshot of my website that has be the first to know, join my email list, and then an email collection card, a physical one that thankfully you had given us as a resource, and the Artist Incubator. And I had printed those before when I was testing out a little Central Park activity of getting some emails. I guess it's good because they are ensuring that your emails are more deliverable by proving that they won't go to spam. They're very particular about who joined. So it
Don't
was a
let it phase you. I've been in business so long that when these things happen, it's like, here we go again. When you've been in business a long time, sometimes it's because you have done something wrong and you didn't realize it. Sometimes it's just a glitch. Sometimes somebody hacks it and you just like, oh, well, this happens and you get used to it. But I understand how it can feel stressful. So I'm sorry that happened to
yeah,
you.
it's okay. I'm glad it's done.
Yes, yes. And now it'll just be whatever.
Yeah, they're
Well,
just
until the
okay.
next time
Well,
you have a show, because like there, I would add 100 people to my list when I do a show. So
there you go. I'll be
you will
ready.
be. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Before we get to our last words, I want to make sure that you guys check out Tyran Schouten's Instagram. It's absolutely amazing. There's one thing I do want to share about it that I did get a comment from somebody during boot camp that they thought your art was had different styles. And I want to just tell you, I don't think that's true. Like you work in clay, yes, as
Yep.
well as oil painting, but it's all very much the same aesthetic. It's kind of like how Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel and did David, but it all looks like Michelangelo. And the same thing with
100%.
Tyron's work. You love being compared to Michelangelo, don't you?
Love that. I actually just went to Florence, got to see the David and also some of his in the Duomo Museum. They have like one of his last sculptures of crucifixion and oh my goodness, love. So
Did you go to the Medici Chapel?
I didn't.
Or you go back?
Yeah. No, 100% need to go back because I want to climb the tower, the Duomo Tower, and but loved PT Palace and the Uffizi, and oh, it was a dream.
It's amazing. Florence is one of my favorite cities. Yeah, his art is amazing. If you go to his Instagram, Tyran Schouten, which we will spell for you out on in the show notes, but you will see that everything does share a similar aesthetic. Oh, and one more thing before we go that I forgot to ask you about is the painting that's behind you.
Oh
So
yeah.
let's talk about that. Did you go running in Van Cortlandt
I
Park? Are you a runner?
well, I ran cross country in high school.
But you were
Um,
good.
I was done after that though. So like my roommate just ran a marathon and he's like, "Would you want to join me?" I'm like, "No, absolutely. I'm my running days are over." So
Yeah, I'm also only 5'2". Like Tyron is tall, so he probably has the legs
I
for
do.
it.
Got the long legs and I didn't have, I feel like athletic capabilities for like eye hand coordination, so I can just like run. I was like, that I can do
Awesome.
that.
Right. Like bad at sports type of thing. So, okay. It looks like he's crouched on a starting block. Would that be right?
He's crawling towards a finish line.
Okay. That would be my other guess. So, and that's only because I don't know sports that I wouldn't know this. Not your art. And the perspective is what makes it the most interesting because it's kind of like a bird flying.
It definitely is almost like a bird's eye view. If this painting, so it's called Failing Successfully.
Oh, I love it already.
And like I said, I love visual metaphors. So, how do you depict failure that is also progress? So, that's where I have this racer. He's literally crawling to the finish line. But by changing the perspective, just like when we change our perspective of what is failure, what is success, it actually looks like he's almost like rock climbing a cliff. When I was doing sketches, that was me literally just like turning my sketchbook and I was like, whoa, that actually kind of looks like he's rock climbing.
Yes. It's amazing. Now, does the runner represent you, past you, future you? Who does that
I
represent?
well, I will say yes, for sure. Me, I wasn't trying to like depict me in general. Like it's humanity, right?
Yeah, of course.
Individual. But I will say that is my cross country. Those are my high school colors, the blue and gold. One of my friends who ran cross country still had his uniform, so I had reached out to him and I was like, "Could you model for me and bring your tracksuit and your bib?" Like he still had one of the runner's bibs, so it was perfect.
That's amazing. It's amazing painting. What's the size of that? 16 by 20?
No, 24 by 32.
Perfect. All right, Tyran. So that's where people can find you. Do you have any last words for of advice for any artists who are listening today?
I would say I want it to be clear. I don't want to depict as though I know exactly what I'm doing and I've made it. I'm still just as much flying by the seat of my pants. But one thing I know is if I didn't do art, something in me would die. And that's all I know that keeps driving me forward is that it is a passion. And if it's my dream, God will make things happen and open doors. And I will say that for anyone else who's pursuing an art. The road is bumpy, but if it's your dream, the doors will open.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for being with me here today. All right, everyone, stay inspired. Bye for now.